Good afternoon, everybody, or really good evening. Just about 6 o'clock and almost ready for wine time. Let me introduce myself. For those of you that don't know me, I am Peter Harrison, and of course married to a lovely lady called Shirley, who's on the other side of that camera. And like all of you, I'm sure, friends and travelers alike, we've been frustrated by the lack of being able to travel and to do things. But like you, we have found lots of great things to do. And one of those is what to do with the fish you actually catch. And that's what we would want to share with you here this evening. Now, many of you that know me know that I am an avid fisherman. In fact, you think I'm crazy about birds, you should see me when it comes to fishing. Now, I came to the Pacific Northwest and it took 10 years or so of me trying, and I eventually started to catch fish after fish after fish. Shirley also took up fishing from that time as well. As you may know, there are 5 different types of salmon in the Pacific Northwest. The most sought after are the sockeye. They're small and they're red, but the biggest of them all are the king salmons. And I tried for 10 years, and the biggest fish I ever caught was about 20 or so pounds. Shirley came out with me for her first outing to go fishing, and she put her rod in the water, and it wasn't in the water more than 10 minutes, and she suddenly had a bite. And this is what she actually pulled in. Believe it or not, folks, this is a king salmon, a particularly large one that weighed just under 50 pounds in weight, 50 pounds. I would fish for another 10 years before I would catch one of this size. But these are the fish that we fish for. Right outside my window here, I can go and catch fish of this size. So once you catch them, what do you do with them? Well, you eat them, and there are all different ways to eat them. And tonight we will share with you how to smoke a king salmon, Alaskan style. As you might expect, there are lots of ways to actually cook a salmon, and also lots of ways to smoke a salmon. With smoking, you have 2 processes. One is cold smoked, and the other is hot smoked. We're going to use a method called hot smoking, and to do that, we first of all have to marinate our fish. And that will be the first thing that we do here this evening. Our recipe comes from this wonderful cookbook called the Alaskan Heritage Seabird Cookbook. It is full of a treasure trove of information, not just on cooking, but how Alaskans live their life. And thoroughly recommended as a wonderful present for those that you might love. Of course, the first thing that you must always do when you start to cook anything is to open the wine, because wine and cooking go hand in hand. And so here we have a chance that's the way to uncork a bottle. I don't know if you've seen these ingenious little things, all air pressure. But now we have our wine, and we just happen to have, lurking right close to me, a glass that actually holds 3 cups of wine. And 3 cups of wine is exactly one of the ingredients we have in our recipe here this evening. And right up to the brim, almost to the brim. There we go. And of course, as all chefs have to, we must check that the wine is of good enough quality for the purposes that we have it lined up for tonight. Cheers. Yes, I'd say that was excellent. The first thing you need is a really large bowl, because we're going to be putting fish into there and the marinade sauce. There are 11 different constituents, and first of all we're going to put all of our dry powders in. So that was 1.5 teaspoons of black pepper. We've got grated up onion leaves. We've got some minced garlic. This is all going in. It's a little bit wet, but it's in there. And we have some lovely salt. Non-iodized salt is what is called for. And this is all the dry coming in. And then, not to forget, cane sugar. Not just white sugar, but cane, lovely brown sugar. This comes in. And just release it a little piece, like that. Next we have our water. Remember, this is a brine, so it's made up of a salt and sugar solution. And so, talking of salt, we're going to bring in some more salt. This is beautiful sea salt, all natural sea salt, and that's going to come in. And of course, our wonderful soy sauce, no less than 6 cups, all done in proportions and measured out. And last but not least, of course, just to make sure that it is still good and worthy. Yes, I'd say so. Absolutely fantastic. And that, folks, is our brine. We now mix. And this will take about 5 minutes of going round and round and round and stirring. And let's make sure that everything is diluted. And we have this wonderful brown color. That's going to give the fish a wonderful, wonderful look. And so we are now ready to take this up to the fish shack and to put the fish into our brine and to let it sit for 12 hours overnight. That is the first stage completed, and from now on, it's all downhill. And so to the last and final stage, for today at least, and that is to take our salmon, which has already been filleted off. We cut it into manageable sized pieces and then thinly slice. It's essential to have the knife very sharp indeed, so a steel is something that you never ever are without if you're a fisherman here in the Pacific Northwest. Make sure that everything is nicely separated, and then you can toss that into the bowl. One last stir to make sure that everything is nicely dissolved. Put our spoon down, and here we go. It's important the fish is covered nicely. You can see there all the fish is going to be lovely and inundated. And just give it a little bit of a paddle here just to make sure that it's all nicely under the brine. And so that will be in there for 12 hours until tomorrow morning. So, see you tomorrow morning. Well, good morning, folks. Welcome back to Zapsville, our home up in the Pacific Northwest. We've had a lot of excitement this morning with me preparing fish yesterday afternoon and then letting it sit out here. We've had a bear come in and attack our little home and broke down some bird feeders and so on, but fortunately did not get our salmon. So Peter and Shirley 1, bear 0. So now we're doing the next stage, which is taking the fish, which has been marinating all night long in our lovely marinated sauce, and we are now laying this down. We have these racks. The racks are sprayed with using something like PAM so that it doesn't stick. And then we're going to have these lovely racks. Notice that there's a lot of space between the fish because we want the air and the smoke to actually percolate up through it. And this will now sit here on these racks for the next 2 hours, and they will air dry and get a lovely glaze on them, and in 2 hours time we'll come back. We'll then take them from here and put them into the smoker, and then we're just 2 hours away from our most delicious Northwest Pacific salmon that you could ever taste. And so our salmon has been air drying now for about 2.5 hours, and here it is before we actually start to make the heat. We're going to turn this on. It will take about 4 hours to smoke. And you can see here a wonderful patina, as we call it. All the salmon ready for smoking. All we need now is to apply the heat. And we'll do that right away. And there we go. Our chips are in, nice and wet. That will provide a lot of smoke and steam. And now we shut her up. Take a look at the time, and we'll be back in 2.5 hours. And so, after 3.5 hours of slow, steady smoking, we have our wonderful salmon. And you notice the color, and every single one a nugget of beautiful salmon, moist, tasty, smoky as only Northwest salmon can be. And I guess I know now what I'm going to be having for breakfast tomorrow morning. Good morning, darling. Breakfast prepared especially for you. Northwest smoked salmon.
Good morning, darling. Thank you so much. Nothing like having fresh smoked salmon and put onto a bagel. Many people end up having their bagel different ways. We particularly like butter, cream cheese, red onion, and tomato slice, and then the smoked salmon. And sometimes Peter cooks it cold smoked salmon. So that's another time for another recipe. And what we'll be doing is we'll post the recipe for this particular hot smoked salmon on the website with Apex Expeditions. So you'll get to see that. And Peter and I eat like this all the time, obviously. But when you're stuck at home, why not use the best crystal, the best whatever you have? These happen to be 150-year-old glasses that my great-great-grandparents brought from Germany. So bon appetit and happy eating. Cheers.